right. What's happening, my friends? We are live here on Facebook and in groups. I got an incredible, I'd say friend, colleague. We've known each other for a couple of years now, Willie, haven't we?
That's
Uh,
right,
we've
man.
been,
How
we've been
are
ta-
you?
talking about a
Yeah.
lot of different things, life, business, church, God, and everything else. I'm going to let Willie introduce himself because he can do it best. But Willie does a lot of incredible things. He just got number one charts in music on one of his music songs. And that's why I'm saying I'll let you introduce him because you're better at it than me. But he also joined our Les Brown book opportunity. So he's co-authoring along with a few other people in our Les Brown book. Just gonna be fun. We're gonna do some great stuff together. I'm sure Willie's gonna come out to one of our events coming up soon. We're gonna do a book launches and a lot of fun stuff. So Willie,
Yeah.
brag about you, my friend. Tell everybody who you are, what
Oh
you got
man.
going on.
Oh, hey, my brother. First, let me say it's an honor and a privilege to be on with you, man. Yeah, we've been knowing each other for a few years now, and we're finally collaborating. And I'm the CEO and founder of a global permission entertainment company that we started out. Our corporate offices in St. Louis, and it kind of, spreads all across the country. New York, Los Angeles, with a sister company, Music Doctors, and we're riding high, man. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We had a great month. Just 2 weeks ago, we went number one over the song I wrote and sang. It's a love song. It's a vertical love song. It's a lot of duality with the song, and it's called "Couldn't Imagine." Man, this song came in my quiet time with the Lord, with God. Doing a lot of kingdom introspection and just going through the nuances of life. Right? You got pressure. You take the URE off and press, but none of that can happen essentially if you're not really dependent on God. In my opinion, I'm the one who's known for saying God is paramount, right? Meaning
Love it.
he's the supreme source of all my resources. And we just wrapped up a teen summit in Troy, Illinois. I went back to my home state. That was amazing. The teams came out in droves from sixth grade to 12th grade, I believe. And the topic was on pursuit, which we both know about that, right?
Mhm.
Pursuit, man. What we're in pursuit of, who we're in pursuit of, and why are we pursuing it? So the idea was never really to be, number one, which is great. That's great. We have our little vision boards, but it's essentially about how can I be impactful.
Mhm.
So when we hear about number ones, my last books were promoting. Then we went from Troy to Barnes and Nobles in Fairview Heights, Illinois. Um, it was just amazing. We had a sold out event. And the book is called Never Stop Winning Volume One, Win Your Way. 12 chapters of personal development and growth principles and techniques, brother, that we aim to use every day. We utilize it, but you can always do it better. So this is it's been amazing. So we've been pushing the single, and we're number one on the pop charts, Amazon, number one new release, movers and shakers charts. If you guys are familiar with that, and on those first charts I named was Taylor Swift, and for a few hours we hit the number one spot, maybe a day or two, and I think Lady Gaga was on those charts. So
Wow.
we're riding pretty high, man. Right now we're blessed, and we're preparing for 2.0, never stop winning. And I've been in movie rehearsals with Kent. I can't pronounce his last name very well, but he did a lot of coaching for like who's that? Will Ferrell,
Mhm.
Matthew Perry, rest in heaven, from the Friends, the TV sitcom hit TV show that me and my mom used to run. So what makes this special, brother, is why am I repping it so hard? This breast cancer awareness. Well, I lost my mom. So here's my story. It was a turning point. It was a shift. It was one of the most difficult times of my life.
Mhm.
So I did, and then within the same year or the space of a year, my grandmother, who I was very close to, who kind of prophesied and foretold that I would be doing permissions, and my mom said, she saw a Warner Brothers check. We were doing some production for some artists in LA, and she said, "Oh, it's going to get bigger than that." While she's on her deathbed, man, she's in a better place now. But me and my mom were like, mm.
Mm, I hear
Then
you.
my godmother passed away,
Mm.
which is the mother of two of my buddies from the sister company, Theo and I'm headed to LA pretty soon to record, work on some new music, and have a follow up. But it's been a breast cancer awareness month, and it's been so impactful that there were some people crying at the Barnes and Nobles as we exchanged books, man. And I
Yeah.
know that was the power of God. I know
Yeah.
that's who it was.
Yeah.
So
You,
that's a
you,
little synopsis, you know?
Yeah, man. No, it's exciting stuff, right? I love to hear people with their successes and their number ones. And it's because it is, especially when it's a God thing, you know. There's a lot of people that's why I said brag about yourself, because there's a lot of people that, and including me, I say that because I was like, a lot of stuff that I'm telling other people, I'm talking to myself too. It's
Mm,
okay to brag, and because we're talking about God and God's work, right? And
right, right.
what God is doing through us. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, look at me.
Yeah,
Look at
yeah,
look at what
yeah,
God has planted in
yeah.
me, and here's what I'm doing. And it became number one. And I'm making this music, and I'm writing these books,
Absolutely.
doing all of these things.
Yeah.
It's okay because to me it shows the glory, right, of God and who He
It
is
does.
and what it's
It does.
about. And I've just learned over the years, year after year after year, the
Yeah.
more I include God in what I'm doing and what I'm talking about, the better it does. It's a fact, man. It's just a fact, you know. And I talk a lot about how early on in the early years, when my first book I ever wrote, Heal the Boy and the Man Will Appear, the first version. I took bad
Mm,
advice, right? I got this
wow.
advice from my editor, and she went through
Mm,
the whole thing, and she said, "Is this a Christian book?" And I said, "No,
mm.
it's my story." And she said, "You talk a lot about God in this book." And I said, I go, well, I mean, it's a secular book, and in fact, my first book I ever wrote was for kids in juvenile hall. That was my calling, to help kids in juvenile hall.
That's awesome, bro.
And she said, "Well, I think it's going to turn off a lot of people because
Dope.
you talk too much about God." And I
Mm,
said, "Okay." So I listened to
interesting.
her, right? And I said,
Interesting.
"Okay," right? I said, "Okay,"
Mm,
right? And honestly, looking back, that's her perspective. Maybe she had something against God or religion or whatever it is. And I do know her
that's
story. And
true.
she had a powerful. I mean, talk about some trauma, man. I won't share it.
Yeah.
Like, she had some big things going on in her life. But
Yeah.
so I listened, right? And then I also was told the same thing when I would speak in the very beginning when I first started speaking, because I'm
Mm,
my personal story. You know my personal story. Most people do. I talk about how God
yeah.
changed my life. I combined the
Yeah.
science of the mind and the body with God, and that's what changed my life. So people are
Yeah.
telling me, like, listen, man, if you want to be a big speaker, then you shouldn't talk about God so much. And I was
Mm,
just like, what do you mean?
wow.
Like that, and so, but I listened,
Yeah.
right? A wrong, bad advice. This is early on. And two things happened. One, when I was speaking on stage at a church, in fact, in front of a men's group, um,
Mm,
I was about 150 men, and I didn't talk as much about God as I felt like I should. And God spoke to me while I was on that stage. I mean, just
wow.
when God speaks, and anybody who has learned from God or heard from God, it's like a punch, like it's so
Oh
powerful,
man. Yes,
right?
sir.
And
Yes, sir.
I'm sharing my message, and I'm kind of like being aware of what I'm saying. And God said to me right on the stage, He said, "How can you share your story without talking about me?" And I almost started to cry on the
Mm,
stage, right? Because my whole
yeah.
story is God saving me from all these things in life that I've lived.
No
And
doubt.
so I started just being open more and more. And this was years ago, about what I'm doing and who I am, and what God has done for me in my life. And that's always been more powerful than trying to step back, because
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
up to you. It's not up to me to touch people. It's up to God. That's His job. Our
Yeah.
job is to share the wisdom He's given us, to sing your
Yeah.
songs, to write your books, to speak to the children, to do the
Yeah.
cancer awareness, and everything that you're doing. We're the vessel, and God said, "Go do this," right? So we get
That's
number one
right.
chart and number one book. It's a God thing, but it's still not up to us. We plant
Yeah.
the seed and let God do the work, man. That's what it's all
The
about.
increase. He
Yeah,
gives the
yeah.
increase.
So
Absolutely.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
How did you start out? How did you feel when you first started sharing God's word and God's message?
It's kind of symbiotic to your story. You know, I started within the four walls, right? I've always had this tug of war. If we going back and, pivot in hindsight,
Uh,
my backstory is, grew up in East St. Louis, in a city that was always, kind of number one or number two on the murdering capital, right? I
mm,
had a best friend who was killed. And then, on the flip side, I had two God-fearing parents. My mom passed of breast cancer at 54. My dad's still here. Showed up at the signing, by the way. Go to Willie J at Willie J PME. You'll see what that meant to me and how sentimental that is. But I started teaching and preaching. I came from the streets and started preaching in pulpits and then graduations, and then God started broadening my horizons. I felt that that not little pressure, that high pressure, where I started to get noticed in some secular venues. And I was like, God, how do I mesh all of this in without losing my soul, which is the mind, the will, and the emotions, right?
Mhm.
How do I do that? And yet you get glory in, because your glory changed my story.
Mhm.
It's the very reason why I threw a lot of those guns away at 15 to 16 years old. And then 17, I gave my life to Christ and had a born again personal. It's so personal behind outside of the temple, but these temples, I met God in the most intimate, personal way, symbiotic to Adam and Eve. Adam walking through the cool of the garden, the cool of the day, God's voice, he would kick it and hang out with God. That's the kind of relationship I had. And he just took the taste for a lot of things away. Then I was facing prison time. And then that story added on. And this important, which you said is essential, that we don't compromise. Um, and you may say bragging, but I think what you're really saying is that's our testimony.
Mhm.
Like, we
Mhm.
overcome by the blood of the Lamb, but by the word of our testimony. So it's okay to say, yeah, I'm a number one, 12-time number one global best-selling author. And
Yeah.
because of it, God is paramount. He gave the increase. We plant it, we water,
Yeah.
seed time, harvest, right? So it really started that way to me. I started doing high school graduations. Principals were inviting me to some alternative schools as well
Mhm.
because I had that voice.
Mhm.
I come from the hood, as we would call it, right? You can relate to this. And I had my freedom almost taken away, 60, 30 years in prison, and almost missed my daughter being born, who's 19 and doing very well at Memphis University, making the dean's list with excellent A average grades, A plus, right?
Yeah.
And I almost missed that beautiful moment. So, you know, without going too far off into that story, the backstory of how she was kind of raised in a little differently than I was. Yeah, I did some things locally, but she hit the charts at 11 years old with me on the international charts at 11 years old. We Love You, Puerto Rico did a song was asked for the hurricane victims of Maria, and it went number two over there in Europe, right on the top 200 charts, music indie charts. And by the way, salute to Stephen Rich for that. He co-wrote Sweet Home Alabama. He was co-manager of the Eagles, and he said, "Willie, you'll blow over there first. Then you could bring it home." And then Broadway picked it up and blah, 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 right? Kept on going, kept on going. Now we're here. And that's to really answer your question. It's kind of symbiotic to your story. And I just had to get over, you're not going to please everyone. I think that in leadership, we forget that, bro.
Yeah.
Um, that you can't please everyone, right? I learned that from Jesse Maxwell. I'm a Maxwell leadership certified coach too, as well. And we're working on building our coaching team as well, too. And I have like 15-year-olds, who have come to me. Their parents bring them to me, just like the Teen Summit, but a life coach, And they hired me to do that and to see that and to be able to speak a universal language without losing the God factor,
Mhm.
right? There's a way.
Mhm.
I like that you said secular, right?
Mhm.
That used to scare me, bro. Like, to be honest, because we love God, man. But I think I don't look at it as a religion. I don't really. I look at it as a way of being, a faith, a lifestyle, a relationship,
Mhm.
right? And God is not intimidated by us saying these things, you know, talking about mindset, science. I heard you say science.
Mhm.
So I started to embrace these concepts. I'm like, wait a minute, God is all of these things. So I can talk about the winner's mindset.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Chapter two starts off in volume one, Never Start Winning.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'll throw something in like, so is a man thinking this is in his heart, so is he. King
Yeah.
Solomon's quote,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It all originated there when you say, brother.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I say
Yeah,
very, very similar. I think that's why, we get along. We have a lot of the same principles. All of this self-development, all of the mindset stuff, if you follow it all the way back through all the gurus, it comes out of the Bible.
it
Right?
really does.
As,
It really
as a
does,
man
bro.
thinketh, as a man thinketh in
So
his
is
heart,
he.
so is he. That's
Yeah,
a verse in the Bible. You know what I'm saying?
that's a verse.
And then you
Yep,
take the science of that, right? Because there's a science to the mind and the body, right? We're
absolutely.
psychology, science, biology, what we eat, exercise, that's all
Hmm.
science, right? When you take the science of as a man thinketh in his heart, you understand that there's neurons in our brain, there's neurons in our heart. A lot of people don't even
Yeah,
realize you we,
yeah,
we when you have
yeah,
when they say follow your heart, it's because your heart does have a thinks like your brain
absolutely.
does, right? And what
Yes, it
I've
does.
learned is the core of what we think about is in our heart. And if it's
Yeah,
negative, we're going to create negative. If it's positive in love, we're going to create and attract positive in love. So these
that's it.
things, they're taught as the secular
Yeah,
mindset thing, but they do go back to the Bible. And that's okay. And here's why. It's okay because there are people, and it's none of our business and nothing to
right.
worry about. But there are people who get turned off if you start talking about Jesus, right? And things like that, and
Yeah,
jokes about it.
yeah,
So if you
yeah.
can teach it in a secular way, and then people actually dive in and they track it, then they'll learn it comes from the Bible.
That's
It comes
me.
from the
That's
Bible.
me. That's
Yeah.
where I've been in that
Yeah.
space, brother.
Mhm.
7.5 years pure mission in ENT and that speaking engagements, right? Like wanted to be able to, because God is the most universal language. I believe the Bible is. I believe science started when he said, "Let there be light," created the heavens
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
earth.
Yeah.
That's science. Let us make man out of our own image. So
Yeah.
there was a science to that. So
Mhm.
people are so afraid of that. My
Yeah.
dad pastors and he showed up and we had this discussion. I think he brought up Reverend Ike. Reverend Ike talks a lot about that science and he kind of
Mhm.
correlates it. And I said, man, we can't be afraid
Mhm.
to secularize and not lose the integrity of the word, right?
Mhm.
The Bible, but we can't be afraid to talk about thoughts being frequency and
Right.
energy. God
Right.
is energy. And then when we come together, there's a synergy right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
You can't be afraid of those,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
because he's all of that,
Yeah. Yeah. You
right?
hit it.
This is why
You're
I say he's
oh,
paramount.
you hit it, and you're 100%. We're in agreement.
Yeah,
The that first book that I told you, I've written 8 books now, and the last one that I just
that's
released,
awesome.
I think I released it about a year ago, but it was a rewrite of the first book I ever wrote. And the difference was the subtitle. So they're both Heal the Boy and the Man Will Appear. But after learning and understanding all that we're talking about right now, the subtitle of the second version is Overcoming Childhood Trauma with God and Psychology, right? Because that was
Mm,
my understanding. And I'll tell
yeah,
you, in my story, when I talk about it, I learned the science before I fully got into God. I was introduced to God at a very young age, but I still lost, knucklehead, did all my dumb stuff. But so
yeah,
when I started to come out of it and seek and learn, I
mm,
learned the
yeah,
science first, the psychology, the neuroscience, right? The biology. I
yeah.
learned all the science stuff first because I really got into it once I started to discover it. And then when I heard and learned all the science stuff, it was impactful. But here's what happened for me is I knew all the whys. Why do I do what I do? Why do I act the way that I act? Why do I feel the way that I
Yeah,
feel? I did a lot of dumb things.
yeah.
I didn't feel good, right? I learned and
Me
understood
too, man.
However, I wasn't
Yeah,
healed yet, right? I still wasn't healed. So I was like, I understand all of these whys. I understand why I lived the way I lived and the conditioning and the behavior. And I understand it, but there's still something wrong.
yeah,
That's when I found
yeah,
God. That's when I found God. That's
yeah,
the healing came, right? The
yeah,
healing came.
yeah,
So to
yeah.
me, you have to understand the science with
You do.
God, and then that's where the healing comes from. So that's why I wrote that.
Yeah,
And I,
you
and I
do.
think like you mentioned, I think your dad or your grandfather, in the church and things, we grew up, and they're a generation ahead of us, but we grew up
Yeah,
with science is taboo. No, you don't talk about science in church, right? And I
yeah,
think I'm
yeah,
guessing, but I think that came from the big battle between evolution and God, because evolution was
yeah.
a science thing, right? So people are like, oh no,
Exactly.
we can't talk about science. but like we we're both talking about, there is frequency,
Yeah.
there is vibration, it's proven.
It's proven.
It's not a,
Yeah.
like, oh, I think there's a
Yeah.
vibration. I think we're this, I
No.
think we're that. It's
Right.
proven,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so
Absolutely, man.
when you look at it, it's the biology, right? Like,
Yeah.
you got a sweater on, but I'm assuming you're in shape. I exercise all the time. People
Yeah.
who are not in shape
Same.
and eat horrible
Same.
and that type of thing, they don't feel good, right?
That's a
How we
fact.
feel, and the hormones in our bodies, that's
Hmm.
biology, which is a science, right? There is a
Absolutely.
science to the mind, psychology, right? What we
Yeah.
think about. It says, we're just talking about that. What we think about will create our life. That's a
It
science,
does.
right?
It
So
does.
combine
Yeah.
those two things, then you get a better understanding of who we are, why we are, and what we can
Yeah.
create on this earth. And man, I just got off a phone call with somebody 15 minutes ago about this event coming up on February 21st. And we were talking
Mm.
about very similar. These are the conversations that I love to have, I'm passionate
Yeah.
about,
Hmm.
because it's people, I see more people waking up to what we're talking about. Where years ago, when
Absolutely.
science was taboo, it was like you couldn't
Absolutely.
talk about it and people would just cut it off, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so opening the mind,
Yeah.
opening the heart, understanding that
Yeah.
God is love and God is energy and God is all things, which is us, right?
All
God
things.
created
Yeah.
all things, and he creates all
Yeah.
things good. He created us. He's within us. It says that in the Bible too. If you're a
Yeah.
Bible, you believe that
Yeah.
he's within us, right?
Hmm.
So
That's
I'm
right.
gonna say something right now that's extremely controversial. Okay, in fact, this where I'm working right now. There's this big, really cool church, and gives there's all these rooms and things. It's almost like
Oh,
what are those things,
cool.
what are those things called where you can go and like a lot of different people with different companies go and they work in a co-oping space. This church
Correct.
has like a co-oping space here, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm in the church right now, but I'll tell you something that is, I don't want to say anti-church, but that a lot of church people don't agree with me. Religious people, right? And
Yeah.
based on what we're talking
Pharisees.
about,
Yeah.
religion separates. God
Yes.
puts us all together as one. Religion
Absolutely.
separates people. If you don't
It
believe what I
does.
believe, you're going to hell, right? That type of thing. I don't
Yeah.
believe that. Anyhow, what I want to say, and it is, I get a lot of backlash from it, from church style people, religious style people, is I don't like when the pastor's preaching that we're all sinners and we're horrible and we're condemned. I don't
Yeah.
believe that, man. I don't believe it. I mean, yeah, we do stupid stuff, we think things and this and that, but
Yeah.
man, we're one with God. We're one with
Absolutely.
God. We don't have to,
Absolutely.
when somebody's preaching, you're a sinner, you're a horrible person, and you need God and this
Yeah.
and that.
Yeah.
Half of that, I don't believe.
Yeah.
I believe we do need God. I believe we are God, right? But don't
Hmm.
tell me, don't sit there and pound in my brain that I'm a horrible
Yeah.
person and I'm a sinner and this. Don't do that, because as a man
Yeah.
thinketh in his heart, so is he.
So is he. So is he. I love that. Let's pivot right to what you just said, brother.
Go.
Like, but I had a conversation with a client the other day, and it was almost along the line, in alignment with what you just said and what we're talking about now. And that is this. I said, do you not know that God says, I know the thoughts that I think concerning you is for a good end. I see you in your finished state. We're
Mhm,
always catching up with him, right?
mhm,
I see you as whole. I don't see you as this broken, useless, invaluable, or someone who's just this horrible individual. Because what needs to be taught now is the finished works of
mhm,
Jesus.
mhm,
It's not by our works. We're not the righteousness of God because of how right we are.
mhm.
And that's written.
Yeah,
See,
yeah,
that's why I don't do religion. I don't
yeah,
do that. And
yeah,
I love, there's people still that support us in the four walls. So I'm not trying to step on any toes, but sometimes the truth, it cuts like a two-edged sword.
yeah.
Jesus even told these scribes and Pharisees, and I write about this, about the kingdom of God being within us, and we are the kingdom of God,
Mm-hmm.
not over here. He
Right.
rebuked them. He said,
Yeah.
it's not over there for metrics. It's not your works and washing your hands on the Sabbath, and
Right.
you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
that's unlawful to, those they were really coming at Jesus even, and he said, no, your traditions have caused my word to be of none effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how does God see us? And it changed the whole dynamic. I said sometimes God would even leave some symptoms of traumatic experiences. In the 2.0 book of Never Stop Winning, that's the sequel. I'm dealing with that actually, winning through trauma. Like, yeah, casting your cares. He may just leave that thorn in you so that you can keep coming to him, casting that care, even though it may, the symptoms may arise still.
Mhm.
Now, that does not change God's view of you.
Mm-mm.
God already sees you as a more than a conqueror, as a winner. That's what winning is about. It's not perfect. It's kind of subjective in a way, but if you're if you win where you were, winning is not dotting every I, brother,
Yeah.
and every
Yeah.
T. We're all gonna fall short. All have seen and
Mhm.
fall short of the glory.
Mhm.
That's what should be preached. That's what I
Yeah.
teach on my radio show, Never Stop
Yeah.
Winning. It
Yeah.
airs in 197 countries. You can go and check it out on permissionent.com. I'm
Mhm.
dealing with faith over fear, which is false evidence appearing real,
Yeah.
and we're tackling these tough topics. So
Mhm.
because there's a lot of people, suffering as a result of not being aware of this truth we're discussing now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Powerful. Powerful.
Just need that switch. Like, no, that's false evidence appearing real. Don't be afraid
Yeah.
to be imperfect. We're perfectly imperfect
Mhm.
human beings, just being
Yeah.
perfect if you take that backwards, right?
Yeah. Amen.
Simple.
Yeah.
Simple. This
Simple.
was never meant to be complex, man. This
No.
this this walk with God.
Yeah.
Winning is not complicated.
No. No. The
Failure comes with it. We're
yeah.
gonna fail forward,
Yeah.
as John would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
We I had to learn to fail forward. You can't be afraid of that.
Man, that's powerful. I love it. No, it's good stuff, man. This is a great conversation. We're coming up on time here, but we could talk about this for hours, and we got to jump in a
I
break.
know.
But for those of you who like these types of conversations, and I say this without fear, right? Like
Yeah.
these types of conversations are the types of conversations that I see a lot of people awakening to. And this is where
Yeah.
I'm shifting. For those of you who have been to my tag events or have seen all the stuff that we do, my YouTube channel, my tag talks, it shows all the topics and talks. I'm really shifting to what you and I are talking about right now. And
Yes,
it
sir.
does touch on some people who are very religious. That's the way I want to put it, who are very religious and they don't want
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
outside of what they've been taught
Yeah.
their whole life. But there's so much more, and God wants you to know there's so much more. The creator of all things, universe, God, creator, whatever you want to call, there is more beyond who we are and what we're doing and the things that we're talking
Yeah.
about. And
Absolutely.
I do personally believe that I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe Jesus came, and I
Of
believe
course.
he came to tell us like what we're
Yeah.
talking about, but but
That
it's been skewed over the years. Religion
it
has
has.
skewed it, like to
Oh
control,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
And if you really get into what Jesus talked about, and when you pray, when you meditate, right? I've learned that when I'm praying, I'm talking to God. And when I meditate and quiet my mind, I'm listening, and God will speak to you. He speaks to you all day, every day. So
Yeah.
when you connect to God and you have visions and you're listening, and that's
Yeah.
where people get lost. Oh, visions! Like, what do you mean? That's weird. Every story in the Bible talks about visions.
Yeah.
They're all talking
Absolutely.
about visions from God and hearing from God. So why can't
Yeah.
we? You
We're
can.
always
And you.
driven by vision. We're all driven
Exactly.
by vision, some
So
sort of
so
vision.
I've
Yeah.
had incredible visions throughout my life that some of them God re-showed me when I found him, right, and started to
Yeah.
pay attention. All the visions where he'd saved my life. I've had visions of what God thinks of us as people and humans.
Yeah.
And this is the
Yeah.
topics we're gonna do at the event on February 21st.
I
And I'm
love that.
inviting people like us to come and just share and speak. And
Yeah.
and like my events have always been big and fancy and digital screenings and all this stuff. Man, I'm
That's
gonna put
awesome.
together an incredible nice room. I don't care about all
Mm.
the fancy stuff. And we're gonna get some people in the room, and we're gonna talk. We're gonna have the conversations that we're having right now with
That's
us,
awesome.
with people on the stage, and with the audience. Right? It's not
Absolutely.
my events have never been about me. They've been about the
Mm.
people that we bring to speak and about the
That's
audience.
awesome.
And
That's awesome.
that's going forward for 2026, helping people understand, because there's a big awakening happening right now. I do know that also. That's why we're having this
Yeah.
conversation right now. And there's a big
Absolutely.
awakening happening. So with
Absolutely.
all of the earthly, I'll call it, things that we do, that we've been given to do, called to do from God,
Mhm.
like your number one music, like your number one books, like the bookings that you get to go speak to kids, and all the stuff, the awareness that you're doing,
Yeah.
that all comes from above to share this message that we have right now, right? You know this, we talked about it before we got on here live. We said, let's just have a conversation and let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
And look where it went.
Absolutely. I
Look
love
where it
these
went.
type of,
Yeah.
yeah, organic.
Look
Yeah.
where it went. So let's close with this. I got to get back to doing these calls at least once a week or twice a month because they're
Hmm.
powerful and they're impactful. But let's close
Yeah.
again with your song that came out where people can find it, your book that came out where people can find it. You are joining us in the Les Brown book, and there's opportunity for people to get into that book with us.
Awesome.
And then
Exciting.
where they can find you, and then I'll close after that.
Okay, sounds good, man. I appreciate it, brother, from having me on. Now, the number one single that we just put out, hit multiple charts. You can see that. You can go and stream that. I preferably, I would love for you to go grab that on Amazon. And those charts were all based off of like sales, high sales, you know. And I think even Thriller was on the bestseller. We were right next to Michael Jackson. I grew up listening to MJ, man.
Yeah, man.
That was amazing. But then the book you can get on Amazon and off the website. Visit us at permissionent.com. You'll see all of this information that we're talking about. And just know that this is what we stand for at Permission Entertainment, is that we believe in creating hope through arts, love, business, and entertainment. And entertainment is just a hook to empower you and engage you and lead you vertically to the one who can transform your life and transcend right where where you're staying, right where you're living as of right now. You do it now, you've won already. So yeah, so you can get that song, and no, it's on all the digital platforms, and the new book is coming real soon next month. The sequel to Never Stop Winning, Volume One, Win Your Way, dedicated to breast cancer. The song was dedicated to breast cancer, and that book, is going to be dedicated to something else. I'll leave that as a surprise. That's coming for Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Never Stop
so
Winning
cool.
2.0, Keep Winning Your Way. That one will be called.
All right.
So go check it out and be empowered, man. It's my love song to God and love songs to your significant other
Amen.
and loved ones.
Do you have
Yep.
a website that you can put out?
Yes, sir. Pure Mission, pure, like Mr. Pure, pure mission, ent.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram at Willie J PME, at Willie J PME. That's where I am most of the time.
Right on.
Yep.
And then anybody who's watching this I think I posted in 3 of my groups, and then on social media, obviously on Facebook, then just find Willie J. He's right here online on Facebook, Instagram, and everywhere else. All right, man. Well, it's been incredible. Again, we're doing some fun stuff. I'm honored to have you in our next Les Brown launch
I'm
with
honored, man.
incredible authors. I love the
Thank you,
conversation we
brother.
have. I hope you'll show up. Anybody who is interested in the conversations like what we're having here, and you can speak on this topic, and you're just passionate about it. Doesn't gotta, like I said, it's just a conversation. And
It's just a conversation.
what comes, we share, right? If you
Nothing
want to talk
script,
about it,
unscript.
if you want to
Nope.
talk about it, if you want to learn more about it, hit me up, because February 21st, and probably in Newport Beach is pretty much where I'm going to lock it in, between San Diego and Newport Beach. We're going to do a fun event. I usually do it right on the water, depending on the level that people join us. We usually do a little fun cruise on the bay and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
Haven't locked all that in yet, but we have a great time. You can look at tagtalks.org. You can reach out to me here on Facebook. If you're seeing this on YouTube, just send me a message. If you have a powerful story, we want to hear it. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Willie J. I will talk
Thanks
to
for
you
having
soon, my friend. Many
Yes, sir,
blessings.
my
I love
friend.
the conversation. It was better than I thought it was
Bless
going
you,
to be,
brother.
honestly. I didn't know what to expect, but it's a great conversation. I love to get away from just business and talk about our hearts, right? So, and we combine
Yes, sir.
both of those, all the cool
Yes.
stuff that we're doing, but the
Yeah.
power of it and where it came from. So, Willie,
Yes.
thanks so much, my friend. I
Thanks
love
for
you.
having
I'll
me,
talk to you
brother.
again soon, buddy.
Much love, brother.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.